And we cross to Yusuf Allo. He is a Palestinian journalist, writer, and political analyst from Gaza. All right, crosstalk rules in effect. That means you can jump anytime you want, and I always appreciate it. All right, let's go to Yusuf in London. We have had in the last couple of news cycles, we've talked about the cost of this war in terms of casualties. And it's really kind of ironic that casual and casualty are kind of similar in spelling, but they're very, very opposite here. But there is a casual talk about casualties. The Israelis have told the Americans, there's going to be mass casualties, and the Americans appear to be in lockstep with this, with American-made weapons. The Pentagon has already come out and said Israel will do what it wants with the American-made weapons that it's purchased. So at the end of the day, the United States is very much culpable with the military operation against Gaza, and we can't forget about the people that are being persecuted in the West Bank. Go ahead in London.
Yes, thank you for having me. Let me start by saying that we Palestinians, we did not ask to be a Palestinian. We just got lucky. Israel justifies its killing of the civilian population in Gaza, that this is the cost of war, collateral damage. We Palestinians, we are not people of a lesser God. Israel has sabotaged the international system by violating the Western values of democracy and peace and so on. And the West, by the way, will take decades to recover from these things that Israel has been doing to the mankind. Now, what we know that Israeli army officials, they keep lying, justifying that Hamas exists under the Jabalia refugee camp or under tunnels, but there is nothing justifies these mass killings, the ethnic cleansing, genocide, while the world is watching. Obviously, Israel cannot go on with such ethnic cleansing without the approval and blind support of the United States. Because what happened on the 7th of October exposed Israel's colonization for the past 75 years. And I think Israel is suffering from an internal crisis. It was a blow. But what's happening in Gaza also exposes the double standard policy of the West, the hypocrisy of the West, the United States, the United Kingdom, and those countries who keep saying that Israel has a right for self-defense. What about the Palestinians? Who have been languishing in this misery? Why Palestinians are doomed to misery? Why we are being treated as subhumans? Why we are being demonized? Is that because Palestinians are not white?
Well, it's interesting is that this mantra, Israel has a right to self-defense. Okay, fine. But Israel is occupying Gaza and the West Bank. So it's far more complicated legally than the cliches would make it out to be. Well, but Anthony, let's go back to our guest in London. Again, this is a convoluted argument. Joe Biden, in his infinite wisdom, and I say that with a lot of sarcasm, says, the people of Gaza don't support Hamas. Well, then why are you killing them? Why are you allowing them being killed? Okay, if that's, you see, every single argument they make is convoluted upside down and inside out. Go ahead.
Well, absolutely. When he says that Israel has a right for self-defense, but has to act within the international law, what kind of international law when you just intentionally kill civilians and give justifications? Gaza population, by the way, they are descendants of refugees who were expelled back in 1948 from the indigenous cities across historic Palestine. And half of the population are young people below the age of 20. And by the way, if Israel claims that Hamas is using Palestinians as a human shields, it is Israel that has been using Palestinians as a human shields for the past 75 years. When you deny the indigenous people of Palestine in Gaza, West Bank and Jerusalem, from their basic rights and needs, water, electricity, medical supplies, food, and also
that's a war crime. That's a war crime.
Media blackout. It is, yes. And people come up with the idea of even, Israel is extermination, committing an extermination against people of Gaza, because Gaza is considered as a concentration camp, even because a prison, when you describe Gaza as the world's largest open prison means that you committed a crime. But Palestinians, they did not commit a crime because they've been, fighting for self-determination. There are innocent people being killed day and night. And Israel has no defined borders, Peter. Tell me, yes. What are the borders of Israel? Israel, keeps annexing more land. It has no constitution. and it keeps lying to the world. And,
Yosef, what is really, again, the irony of ironies, Israel is a product of the United Nations.
Imperialist, colonialist power.
Yes, I mean, but you would think, since it's a creation of the United Nations, it would be incumbent upon Israel to follow resolutions of the Security. People talk about Hamas all of the time. They can have their opinion. Most people are badly informed in the West. What is it to you? Because it's a terrorist organization, it's a social organization, it's a political party. What is Hamas in your mind?
Well, Israel has been trying to magnify Hamas and transform Hamas into a monster to attract support of the international community, especially the United States. Hamas is part of the Palestinian people. They are normal people like me and you. They decided to take up arms to resist the colonialist regime, the occupation that Israel has been enjoying with impunity for the past 75 years, because they know that the peace process did not bring an end to the occupation. Also, of course, Arafat, the current leader Abbas, Israel has killed any chance for two-state solution. Even if you march peacefully along the border, along the border fence, I would rather, because there are no defined borders, the fence, you will be shot at. Even in the West Bank, if you march peacefully, you will shoot at settlers, fanatic, extreme settlers. They burned a Palestinian child alive with kerosene. I mean, these horrific massacres and crimes wouldn't go ahead without impunity, without a blind support from the U.S. administration. So Hamas is resisting the occupation, and they said actually they are willing to change their constitution, and they did. And they said we are
a
Palestinian state within lands to be built on occupied lands occupied in 1967. And we know Palestinians, when you attack civilians in Gaza, Palestinians are not going to revolt against Hamas. They will become more resisting. This will create more anger, more hatred. I mean, Israel really, if it wants peace, it can have peace right now, just to recognize Palestinians' rights to exist and to allow, some refugees, or all of them at least, to return back, because we've got around 7 million Palestinian refugees scattered all over the world, and it has to compensate Palestinians. The United Nations has failed us. The international community has failed us. This is this frame is a map of Palestine wrapped with Palestinian kufiyya, and in the West, because they care a lot about Israel, they don't want to upset Israelis. They said that if you raise the Palestinian flag in the UK, it might be considered a crime. What kind of expression, I mean, honestly, double-standard policy. They're sabotaging everything. They're corrupting our minds.
But at the same time, they support Nazis in Ukraine. I mean,
and Ukrainians are allowed
to this to me
everywhere. Yeah.
Well, the West will always support extremist groups because it creates instability, which they can always.
Israel wants to finish the job that started in 1948. It wants to finish the Nakba, the ethnic cleansing. It doesn't want to see Palestinians exist in Palestine, and they're pushing Gaza towards Egypt.
It's interesting, Lucas. It was recently, over the last few years, Nakba was something that was frowned upon in Israeli discourse because you're supposed, it never happened, and they left, and they left the keys in the door as well. They just wanted to leave, but now they're using the term again. I want to give the Palestinian on our panel the last minute. Go ahead, in London.
I think the Zionist project is declining. All Israelis, they have dual citizenship. As soon as there is unrest and conflict in historic Palestine, they flee towards Europe. This shows that they don't have this sense of belonging to the land. Palestinians are being bombed day and night for the past 25 days, and they did not move an inch from their houses. This shows that they are the true owners of the land. And I think talking about peace is a mirage. Israel is not willing to accept a Palestinian state. It's not willing to accept one-state solution, and it wants to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians out of the land. But I can tell you something, with the growing support for the Palestinian cause, with a credible media like yourself, I think there's awareness, and I think the world will not tolerate this
my friend,
any longer.
I couldn't have anticipated a positive end to a very tragic story that we're talking, but I'm glad we ended on that point. I want to thank my guests in Brick, Worthington, and in London. I want to thank our viewers for watching us here at RT. See you next time. Remember, crosstalk rules.